Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. Welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We have an awesome show for you today, but first of all, I want to remind everyone that we have a 2021 calendar on our website for purchase for all of you. It includes quotes and pictures of a lot of our rare disease friends, so we're really excited to share that with you. Check it out on our website. We also want to say thank you to everybody who's donated through the new button on our website. Really, really appreciate that. Sean, what's going on today?
Oh, just staring at the wall. And
Listening to
you ramble. Just waiting for my turn.
Have you had a glass of wine by yourself staring at the wall lately?
Not yet. It's too early for that. But you know what? A new joke a friend of mine delivered. I asked her the other day at work, I'm like, oh, what's your drink of choice, right? Cocktail or beer or whatever. Yeah. And she was like, oh, it depends. Are we talking morning or night? And of course, I just start laughing because I'm like, you drink in the morning? She was like, why just say that to see how people react? And I'm like, that's a good one. I'm gonna keep that and use it. So anyway, nice. That's probably not the point of your question. So back at you.
So I have a couple of stories to start us off. So the other night I'm sitting, I forget what I was doing. Whatever I was doing, I was working on my computer. And there's a mirror in front of me in my house. Like the whole wall is a mirror. So I look in the mirror and
working on your computer? Is that what you call it these days? Just sitting down, working on the computer. Sorry, that was a really delayed joke. So, all right, keep going. All right, so you're.
Do I sound like an old man when I say I'm working on the computer?
Oh, I don't know. You take it however you want.
I'm on the interwebs.
Yeah.
So okay, there's a mirror in front of me, like the whole wall is a mirror, and I can see through the mirror. I can see into my bedroom.
So you sit in your chair staring at yourself in the mirror? What kind of person are you? Yeah. Wow, this story is fantastic. I haven't even really started.
Yeah, starting off with a bang, huh? Right. So I can see into my bedroom. Okay. And I see like a flicker of light because the light's on there. I'm like, that's weird. I look back and there's a freaking bat flying around in my room. A bat.
Snap. Yeah.
So I peek my head around the corner to look in the room and I can't see it for a split second, right? And then it appears like 3 feet away from my face. Wow. And that happens like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. Freaked me out. It's flying into the hall, back into the bedroom, all this stuff. Finally, I was able to grab the door and close it. Mm-hmm. So I closed this bat in the bedroom.
Okay.
And I emailed the manager of my condo complex. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then, 5 minutes later, I get a call from this guy. Hey, I'm Tony, and I'm the emergency maintenance guy. Uh-huh. And I actually live in the complex. By this time, I opened the door again. The bat had landed on the, blinds of the window. Uh-huh. And it was all, folded up, tucked in. Okay. And I was like, all right. So Tony came over, and right when he walked in the door, his phone rang, and he picked it up. It was his wife, and she was like, do you have any gloves? Did you bring gloves with you? And so he, asked me real quick, hey, do you have any gloves? All right, so I give him my gloves. He has a little like fishing net, like something you would use when you fly fishing for trout or whatever. And he's like, dude, I hate critters. So I gotta psych myself up. And he was like psyching himself up.
So he's like
and
in your living room, listening to some Rocky music, doing some jumping jacks,
exactly.
getting ready. Okay.
Yeah, he's like shadow boxing and stuff, you know. So he goes in there and he swats at the bat with this net, and the bat actually gets in the net.
Nice.
And he takes it outside, lets it go, and it's all good. So I guess it's not a super like climactic story, but but there was a bed in my room, so yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I kind of fell asleep there for a second. So do you know how the bat got there? Like, was there a hole in your wall somewhere, or like what? How does the bat just end up in your bedroom?
There's a small crawl space at the back of my closet.
Okay.
And it's open like, an inch.
Sure.
Just enough for a bat to get through, and I think it probably came in there.
Did the maintenance guy talk about, is there a history of bats in this area or in this complex, or
He didn't say.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
figured he would have said something like, "Oh, this happens every once in a while," or something.
Well, if that's true and he's employed by them, he probably wouldn't want to volunteer the information. But I don't know. Did you know it was a bat right away?
Yeah. Well, you know what? When I first
'Cause
looked
I'm
back,
not sure that I would. I would have assumed.
when I first looked back, I actually thought it was a bird for like a split second, and then I could see. By the way, I mean it was flying basically like a moth, right? Like no real pattern in its flight. So yeah.
Okay. All right. It would have taken me a minute to figure that
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Well, I'm glad Tony was able to help you.
Yes, me too.
take
He
care
was
of that.
really cool, and now I have a new friend.
I mean, it would have been cool if the bat, like, I don't know, bit you or peed on you or something, and you became, like, Batman. Like, I know that's not how the story goes, but, what if?
Yeah,
What if it
no,
gave you
that would have
some
made the
alternative
story
powers?
way more climactic, right? If something like that would happen, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, let's, you said you had 2 stories.
Yeah,
So-
so my second story,
Man, I hope it's better.
I was on a call for the Red Taxi Coastal Challenge. And I think you've met Dr. Barry Byrne, right?
Several times, yeah.
He's one of the researchers working on a treatment for Friedreich's ataxia. And he was telling a story. He's like, "Hey, Kyle, I want to let you know how 2 disabled dudes saved my life." I'm like, "What?"
Oh, that's quite an opening.
Yeah, exactly. So he said he was driving. It sounds like it was a long drive, right? And he was listening to our podcast because he said it helps him like stay alert and engages his mind and like his laughter, whatever, and so it helps him stay alert. Isn't that cool that we're stimulating a scientist with our podcast?
I mean, yeah, that's cool, but I would argue that's true for any podcast or any story,
Okay,
But hey, you know what? Yeah, I guess we'll
We'll take it. So he's driving along, and he looks in the mirror, and there's these 2 cars going really fast, just say 100 miles an hour, and all of a sudden they slam into each other, and then they slam into him from behind.
Oh, wow.
And he was alert enough to maintain control and and survived the accident.
Jeez.
And he was crediting 2 disabled dudes
Nice.
with saving his life. He sent me a picture of his car, and it had a piece of one of the other cars lodged in the side of it.
Jeez.
Like, that's how hard it hit.
That's crazy. That's pretty intense. How long ago was this?
I assume it was, within the last couple weeks. It didn't seem like it was very long ago. So, anyway, yeah.
Crazy times. Before we get into our top 5 for this episode, I want to check in with you. Last week, you were like, as soon as we're done recording, I'm going to the grocery store because I don't want to order Grubhub every day or whatever. So, it's been a week now. Did you end up going to the store? Did you cook it all this week? How'd you do?
Yeah, and I feel pretty good about it. I went to the store. I don't know if it was that day. It ended up, my day got away from me. Anyway, I went to the store the next day and got all my groceries, and I've been living off groceries for a week. I have not ordered Grubhub or DoorDash.
Oh, wow.
Since last time, yeah.
Nice, okay.
So,
well, I had said, I was kind of in a rut of just relaxing and being lazy, and because of our conversation last week, I did my little, a short routine of exercises at home, which was, I have a little kettlebell or ball, whatever you call it, do some weights with my arms. Yeah. But I did push-ups, sit-ups, and a few others 5 nights this week. So I did skip 2.
Wow, nice.
But every night, it was kind of nagging in the back of my head, right? It was that layer of accountability, knowing that we had talked about it, and at some point, you would ask me, or I'd, whatever. So I'm feeling good in that area too. So with that in mind, I also want to say, we talked about moving, and there's kind of a mix-up of routines, and I'm falling off the wagon. I have gone back to fast food way too much recently.
Yeah.
Especially right now, we're a little busy at work, so, I get off late, 7 or 8. I don't really want to go home and cook and then clean and then get in bed. So I've been drive-throughing quite a bit recently. And that doesn't help get me out of debt. That's kind of a waste of money, and that's not healthy. So I just wanted to say it out loud. This week, no fast food. I don't know how that's going to work. All Obviously, right. I got to come up with an alternative plan. I can't just not eat. But I'm saying it out loud right now to help mitigate my frequent trips through drive-thrus.
Yeah. Well, and that's how it works. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today after our top 5 is like, all right, when you identify what needs to get done, you got to make a plan and then execute, right?
For sure. So speaking of top 5, Kyle, we decided today we would share our top 5 vacation activities. So things we would do or things we enjoy doing while we're on vacation.
You go first. I went first last time.
All right. So I listed mine in order. Hands down, the very first one, sleep. I just want to sleep. I don't... I want to sleep in. I want to take naps.
Man. Seize the day. That you really.
No, I'm on vacation.
Grab the tiger by the tail.
I am seizing the day. I'm resting.
All right.
So that's number 1 for me. I want to eat good, and when I say eat good, I don't mean eat healthy. I mean just eat. Eat plenty. Eat whenever I want. Enjoy the food, so eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and plenty of it. So I want to eat well. I want to relax. So the difference for me from sleeping and relaxing is, for me, when I go on vacation, I prefer no plans or very little plans. So I'm not the type of person to map out every day. Like, okay, we're going to this museum at 10 a.m. Then we're going to go over here and see this thing at noon. And then we'll go over here. Like, that's not vacation to me. So I'm
Right.
not one to plan. I want to go with the flow, do whatever I feel like doing in the moment. So that's 3.
Yeah. So let me touch on that for a second because
Sure.
I agree with not with being comfortable without a plan, but I also get to a point where it's like we're not doing anything, and I get antsy because I'm like, all right, we should be doing something, experiencing something new, like especially like for example, I'm in Mexico at my with my family a few years ago, and we're sitting around the pool, and it's like, all right, we should take a trip into town or something. I don't know. I just get antsy, about experiencing things.
I'm good with some plans, like
Right.
2 o'clock, we're going to meet for lunch, or 5 o'clock, we're going to dinner at this place. But I don't like to cram my days with all of these different appointments or, plans, because then it's like stressful and pressure, and that's not relaxing.
Yeah. I think I totally agree. It's good to have like 1 or 2 things, right? And like not just going from thing to thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so I'm going to sleep. I'm going to eat good. I'm going to relax. No plans. Number 4, I want to explore. So I do want to go into town. I want to go for a little hike. I want to walk around the beach. I want to check out the sights. But I don't want to have to follow a schedule. So for me, the plan is, all right, guys, tomorrow we're going to go to the Eiffel Tower. When everybody's ready. So, get up when you feel like it, have breakfast, grab a cup of coffee, and then we'll all go to the site or whatever. So that to me is good exploring. Go for a walk, ride your bikes, whatever you can do. Rent some motorcycles or a kayak. Depends where you're at. All right, finally, this is a big one. I was thinking about vacations I've taken, whether it's go hang out at my mom's for a week or go on a cruise or whatever it may be. One of my favorite things to do is sit around drinking wine and just talking. Wine with loved ones and just catching up on life or playing card games or just being in the moment. But it's got to be with a glass of wine.
Yeah.
Those are my top 5 activities for vacation.
All right, nice. My number 1 activity is cycling. And I don't think that's a surprise, but so I went on a vacation a few years ago with my dad and my uncle. I was there for 3 days. They were there for 7, but it was this ride in Iowa, of all places. It's called RAGBRAI, and it was the best. Like, we slept on the ground in tents every night, and then we rode like 45, 60, then 85 miles. And basically, all we were doing was riding and sleeping and like having a beer when we're done,
Nice. So, question on that. That was planned. You took your bike or you arranged it. What happens if you go on vacation to, say, Mexico or, you're going to go to France or, I don't know, Italy, whatever. Obviously traveling with the trike isn't really all that feasible. So what do you do if you're somewhere where your parents couldn't drive your bike to you? Do you rent a bike?
So in Iowa, actually, I borrowed one from a shop, and rent or borrow. I mean,
so it doesn't matter where you go. You're gonna try to get a hold of a trike. That's ideal. Okay.
I mean, I rented a trike in France. Actually, we rented Germany and took it to France a couple of years ago. And so I always try and find a way to do that.
Okay. You're right. Not surprising.
The next one is fishing. I love fishing because it combines relaxing and drinking and hanging out with my dad and my brother. And there's a little excitement sometimes too. So
Now I know why we don't vacation together. Oh, fishing? Really?
Yeah, man. It's the best.
I mean, I'm all about, like I said, just stand around, hanging out, drink a beer. So, I mean, I would do that and just sit on the sidelines or chill on the boat. I'm not cutting fish. I'm not cleaning fish. I ain't doing that. All right, keep going.
All right. So, my other one, many of mine, I think, are very similar to yours. Sitting on the beach, just relaxing, right? Probably with a fruity drink or something. But yeah, sitting on the beach.
Okay.
I also had exploring.
Nice.
So town or hike or whatever. And then I have eating. Because that's like a really important part of every vacation, right? And you had it on your list too, so yeah.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before. I really enjoy cruises because you don't have to worry about getting a taxi and going to town and doing. You're just on a boat, And of course, everybody knows one of the highlights to a cruise is just food. It's endless. Somewhere there's always food, right? So
yeah, you know what? Actually, what I loved, I've been on one cruise, and what was awesome was like you said, you're on a boat. Yeah. Your activities are limited. It's not infinity, right? And so that actually, and one of the things was like, internet was really, it was like $30 a day or something like that when you're on the boat. And I'm like, all right, I'm just not going to check my email. When life is like constricted like that, you're like, all right, we're just here and hanging out and doing whatever is available. Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. Speaking of cruise, before we move on, I do want to throw it out there. You and I have talked about maybe planning a cruise and seeing if anybody wants to meet us there. So if you're listening to this and you have a thing for cruising, there are certainly companies and ship. Obviously it's kind of not a thing right now, but assuming cruising comes back into the picture post-pandemic, would you want to go with us? Would you meet us on this ship? Would you want to hang out with Kyle and Sean for a week and just drink fruity drinks and stare at the ocean or whatever? We thought it'd be fun to get even just 5 people, or, obviously it'd be fun to have 20 or 50 or whatever, just kind of hanging out in the same space. So, hashtag 2DD cruise, if that's something you think you might be down for, like maybe next year or something in the future. All right, Cal, we've been going for a minute, so let's spend a little bit on today's topic. We know with episode 133, we talked about things we want out of life, right? Last week, we talked about things we don't want. In 134, it's like, all right, let's avoid these things. But really, how do we do either one? Like, how do we accomplish what we want? How do we avoid what we don't want? And we thought we'd just spend a few minutes talking about the importance of designating or designing a plan that's going to help you or help us accomplish what at one point we said was important to us.
Yeah, and so, Sean, in our notes, you kind of laid out a little, step-by-step thing. You see the vision. You make the vision in your mind, right? Yeah. And then you make plans. You break it down. And then your last one, I love it, is that you said you tell somebody. Yeah. Because, like we've been talking about, none of this stuff probably will get, unless you tell somebody, it's not really a thing. Yeah. So I like that one.
I will say, a lot of the thought process isn't necessarily me, right? A lot of personal growth gurus over the years in books and whatever, they all kind of, I think, say the similar message. I will say I do have a couple of friends that have helped with life coaching. In fact, you can visit them or check them out online. Their Coaching Fuel is their business and they just help develop personal coaches. Anyway, one of the coolest exercises they encourage is this personal vision, right? Writing down everything, and they have categories, whether it's finances, love life, things like that, spirituality, whatever. But I love their plan of writing a vision as if it happened. Yeah. So you really, or as if you're experiencing it right now. So let's say my vision we mentioned last time is to be out of debt. Well, on my vision plan, I would literally use, like future tense right now sort of words as if I was experiencing a life of being debt free. So instead of saying I want to be debt free, I would write the vision as today I'm debt free and experiencing a cash flow of X, Y, and Z and able to do whatever I want. And then of course,
right,
you read that vision once a day, once a week, whatever you squeeze in. And it just keeps it fresh, and you can begin to picture that lifestyle, which makes it all the more motivating and all the more encouraging in that daily pursuit.
Yeah, man, visualization. I think is so powerful, and it seems so like undefined, right? But for example, like when I'm about to give a speech or when I'm preparing, I'll think about. Maybe not consciously, but I will go through, going up the stairs onto the stage or whatever. How am I going to get there? And, what is going to look like when I see the audience for the first time? How am I going to feel? And what are my first words going to be? And then, going through the speech in my head.
Yeah.
And I have experienced it already. 3 or 4 times.
Nice.
By the time I get up there, right? Obviously it's not exact,
sure.
But yeah.
Thinking about the first, what am I going to say first? You mentioned, what are my first words? And of course, I immediately think, oh crap. This audience is intimidating or big or I'm not ready. We've been there.
Yeah.
But that's fantastic. Athletes do that all the time, right? They envision that slam dunk. They envision that finish line. And there's value in doing so. And like you mentioned, plan 2 or step 2, make plans. What are you going to do this week or next month or this quarter or this year to move closer? Like we've mentioned before, you don't just wake up on the gold podium. So what do you need to do today? Exercise for an hour? Eat healthier? Read more, whatever it is, all walks of life, break it down a little bit so it's attainable and it's not so, if you're saying you want to get married and buy a house, those are really big, overwhelming goals, right? But if you break it down like I am, date nights or I'm going to put $5 away here and there, you break it down, it's a little more attainable.
Right, no, and I think it relates to some of the stuff we talked about at the very beginning, right? I mentioned last week that I have a vision of just staying out of the rut of not being active, right? And outpacing my disability with athletics. And I have felt myself falling into this rut lately. And yesterday, actually, I had one of my strongest workouts, I feel like, on my stationary trainer since I started using my heart rate monitor. And it was because we identified the vision and we broke it down. All right, I need to do a workout today to fulfill that vision,
Yeah.
So
that's huge. I love that. And I don't remember who I was talking to or where, so forgive me if it were you or somebody listening. Oh, actually, I think it was my brother. He's got an old truck that he's had for probably decades, and he's always been, refurbishing it, right, or rebuilding it. And it's been sitting in his garage untouched for decades. And they finally caught up with a friend, and a friend's like, dude, you have to go outside into your garage and do something every day. Whether it's tightening a screw
Yeah.
or changing a light bulb, something as minor as taking the license plate off and adding a frame, or something as major as changing out the transmission. But especially when it comes to a project like that, if you're not constantly making it a point to go out every day and do 5 minutes or an hour, or whatever you can do, skipping one day turns into skipping 3 days, turns into skipping 4 months, turns into skipping 5 years. And before you know it, that truck you've been, quote unquote, working on has been sitting untouched for 12 years. So I love that mentality, that concept, that analogy, because you got to do something. Otherwise, it'll become a moot, kind of untouched thing without even really knowing it or realizing it until it's pretty late.
Yeah, no, just think about, like, the fact that, dude, we're almost 40.
Yeah.
Like, where did the last, like, 20 years go, right? So, yeah, it can slip away just like that.
We've been going for a minute, but I do want to I just want to highlight the final step that we've sort of mapped out between each other. Accountability, that's key to success in any walk of life, right? You gotta tell somebody what the plan is. When you don't, it's easier to not do it and not feel any obligation, right? You just kind of sweep it under the rug and nobody knew, so it's no big deal. You said that last week. Accountability is going to be the glue that helps you move from point A, where you're at right now, to point B or Z or anywhere between. So telling somebody, and this is true for anything important to you, whether we're talking finances or health, or getting the house ready for a new baby, or, whatever, I don't know. All walks of life, it's important that you tell your partner, your spouse, a friend, a buddy, what the plan is, and somebody can help make sure that you're moving in the direction you said you want to move in.
I feel like we all have a need to, like, feel strongly about something before we take action. And yeah, sure, that motivates sometimes, feeling something that needs to get done. But accountability is about doing things that you don't feel like doing, right? And maybe a friend or a partner or family can be the one that reminds you, you know what, even if you don't feel like doing this, you said this was important to you, so let's get it done.
Yeah. Somebody to remind you you're better than that rut, right? Or better than that poor decision. I love it, and I value the conversation, because as much as we hope to add value to you, our listener, we are also just working through life together ourselves. So I appreciate this, because it reminds me that going through the drive-thru 3 or 4 times a week isn't what I want out of my life right now. So thank you, Kyle.
Sean, get it together.
All right, done. I promise. This week I'll be good. I don't know about next week, but this week is gonna be easy.
One step at a time.
For sure.
All right, Sean, so do you have a thank you note for this episode?
Absolutely. We'll wrap it up with those. I was thinking about it last night, and I realized there's a lot of people whose job or skill or talent or whatever you call it is to make other people look good. I specifically think about editors, right? I write for Bio News or Friedrichs Ataxian News, and then I started thinking, you wrote a book and you had a little bit of help, and then of course the Ataxian, a whole slew of people that have committed their careers to just making beautiful products that really make other people look good. So I'm really thankful for editors, especially when it comes to Friedrichs Ataxian News, and they call them I'll write a rough draft and they just make it look beautiful. So thank you to that whole world of editors.
Nice.
What about yours, Kyle? Who are you saying thank you to?
My thank you note goes out to the ramp that comes out on the side of my van. It's a Braun conversion van. And there's a guy named Braun. And you know what? I have to admit, I don't remember his first name. But I want to say thank you to him because he's the guy who was like, here, I have this van and I need to get a wheelchair inside of it. And I think I can do it. So he figured out how, and it started out very primitive. But now it's a ramp that folds out on the side of my van so I can use it with my power chair every day, you know?
Yes, that's the name behind Braun Ability. We see those conversions everywhere.
Yeah, that's the one.
Cool. Great. Thanks for sharing that. And if you're somebody that maybe is in the boat or searching or thinking about such a van, braunability.com. BRAUN ability.com. Kyle, thank you for another wonderful conversation. Thank you for an okay story with your bat and whatever else. Listeners, thanks for tuning in, and thank you for sticking it out with us and finishing this episode all the way to the end. If you like this show, please be sure to share it with your friends. Subscribe on your favorite podcast app or even our bi-weekly newsletter. We look forward to chatting with you next week. Until then,
keep living with urgency. Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This show is possible with your support. Visit twodisableddudes.com to donate.
Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app.